Every time we drench, we select for resistant worms. The worms that survive the drench pass on the resistant genes to their offspring. If we use the same drench continuously, drench too often, or underdose the animals, the number of resistant worms in the population will increase. Worm management programs are vital to prevent this from happening. One of the quickest ways to get drench-resistant worms onto your farm is with a truck. Any sheep arriving onto your farm that was not born and grazed on your farm can carry parasites that may be resistant to drenches and be the downfall of your parasite control program. When sheep arrive onto your property, the assumption must be made that these sheep are carrying parasites that may be resistant to a variety of drenches and must be treated as such. In this video, I will take you through the 5 steps that will give you the best shot at removing these resistant worms before they get onto your property. When the sheep get off the truck and enter the yards, they should be drenched with at least 4 broad-spectrum drench groups. If the animals are unfit to be drenched straight away, they should be given access to water and hay in the yards for 24 hours to allow them to recover before the drenches are given. See tables 1 and 2 on your screen now in regards to the types of drenches that can be applied depending on the situation. Once the sheep have been drenched, they need to be left in the yards, preferably on dirt, for 1 to 3 days to allow the wormed eggs that have been produced by the worms prior to the drenching to be deposited back onto the paddock. Sheep need access to feed and water during this time. If the animals are kept in a holding paddock with grass, avoid grazing this paddock with sheep for a minimum of 3 months, but ideally longer. After the sheep have been in the yards for 1 to 3 days following the drench, they should be placed into a paddock that has been recently grazed, preferably by young sheep from the farm. This is so the new animals will become infected with the farm's worms and dilute out any worms that may have survived the quarantine drenches and reduce the risk of the multi-resistant worms being deposited onto the pasture. 14 days after the sheep have received the quarantine drenches, a fecal egg count needs to be conducted on the new arrivals to ensure the quarantine drenches were effective. If any worms have survived 4 or more different drench groups, they are very resistant and the animals need to be drenched again. Drench options will differ depending on the animals you are purchasing and how long you plan to keep them on farm. For example, if a mob of young crossbred lambs was purchased that were looking to finish in 7 to 8 weeks on farm, drenches that have a short export slaughter interval will need to be used, so they've been sold once they have reached their target weight. In this situation, we could drench the sheep with a tridectin, a startex and an aphthalophoros drench if they are coming from an area that has barber's pole. The maximum ESI from these drenches is 28 days, so will not increase the amount of time the animals will spend on farm due to the ESI of a drench. If they are coming from an area with liver fluke, a triclobendazole or closanol product will be required, but will increase the ESI to 63 days. If the sheep have come from a known liver fluke area and were drenched for liver fluke as part of the quarantine drenching, collect samples 63 days later and test for liver fluke to ensure the infection has been removed. Ask your local Verbac area sales manager about quarantine drenching and implementing the target sheep program on your property today.